Israeli security forces shot dead a Palestinian man on Friday during operations in the occupied West Bank, an incident that adds to growing international concern over the use of lethal force by the Israel Defense Forces IDF in recent raids. According to the health authorities in Ramallah, the victim has been identified as Bahaa Abdel-Rahman Rashid, 38. He was killed in the village of Odala, south of the city of Nablus in the northern West Bank. The health ministry said he was killed by Israeli fire. Medical personnel from the Palestine Red Crescent Society responded to a man with a critical head injury. They performed cardiopulmonary resuscitation at the scene, but Rashid was later pronounced dead. Eyewitnesses and residents of Odala say that Israeli forces had raided the centre of the village shortly after Friday prayers. As worshippers emerged from the mosque, troops reportedly fired live ammunition, tear gas canisters and stun grenades, triggering clashes. Residents say that Rashid was among those exiting the mosque when he was struck. An official statement from the IDF acknowledged troops opened fire in the area, saying it followed a violent confrontation in which the military claimed some individuals hurled rocks towards soldiers. The statement further asserted that Rashid was not among the 6 militants killed during the week-long campaign in the northern West Bank. Local residents and rights groups reject the claim. Mohammed Al-Karouf, a resident of Odala who had been inside the mosque that day, told journalists that tear gas canisters had been thrown on men as they exited the mosque, a departure from a routine security sweep, he said. Rashid was allegedly struck by live bullets during the ensuing chaos. This killing comes amid a surge of violence in the West Bank tied to a broader wave of Israeli military operations following the war that began in Gaza in October 2023. The territory, which has been under Israeli occupation since 1967, has seen a sharp rise in military raids, airstrikes, arrests and confrontations. On Friday, aside from Rashid's death, 4 other Palestinians were reportedly wounded in nearby clashes. Some were struck by tear gas or live ammunition, while others suffered injuries from stun grenade fragments, according to Red Crescent reports. Authorities also say that the IDF concluded a 2-week counter-terrorism operation in the northern West Bank. During that campaign, the military claimed it killed 6 militants, carried out over 30 airstrikes, arrested dozens of suspects and destroyed infrastructure alleged to belong to militant networks, Palestinian sources. However, argue the operation buried legitimate civilian concerns under the rhetoric of security. Since October 2023 alone, over 1,000 Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem have reportedly been killed by Israeli forces or settlers, including combatants and civilians. The killing of Bahaa Abdel-Rahman Rashid echoes other incidents in which Israeli forces have been accused of using disproportionate or reckless force, often during raids in Palestinian towns and refugee camps. Just weeks ago, a video surfaced showing Israeli border police shooting 2 Palestinians in Jenin after they had allegedly surrendered. The men were filmed crawling away after being detained, unarmed, and raising their shirts to show they carried no weapons, yet they were shot dead. The killings triggered an internal IDF review and widespread condemnation from human rights groups. In the Jenin killings, the deceased were identified as part of the armed wing of the militant group Palestinian Islamic Jihad, though rights organizations argue the video evidence strongly suggests a summary execution. Human rights observers interpret both the Jenin video and the killing in Odala as part of a troubling pattern, lethal force being used against Palestinians in populated areas, often during sweeping operations that blur the line between combatants and civilians. The IDF indicates that its operations in places like Odala are part of ongoing efforts to dismantle armed militant networks operating in the West Bank. According to its account, soldiers responded to violent confrontations when suspects allegedly threw stones at troops. The army maintains that Rashid was not among those it had designated as militants. In contrast, local witnesses describe a scene that suggests an indiscriminate use of force as people left a mosque at the end of Friday prayers. Tear gas, stun grenades and bullets reportedly flew as crowds dispersed. For many Palestinians, incidents like this deepen fears that any public gathering, religious or civil, can become a shooting zone. The response from Palestinian officials was swift The Health Ministry's statement framed Rashid's death as the result of Israeli fire, and human rights activists are calling for an independent investigation into the conduct of the soldiers who opened fire. The killing of a 8-year-old Palestinian man in what appeared to be a village raid has already stirred outrage among local communities and rights groups who view it as another potentially unlawful killing. Critics argue that such incidents highlight a dangerously broad use of force under the guise of security operations, especially when involvement of civilians cannot be ruled out and evidence of militant activity is unclear or contested. International attention has also increased. The recent footage from Jenin sparked global condemnation and calls for accountability, with observers warning that unchecked lethal force risks fueling deeper unrest. As for Odala, outrage is simmering quietly among residents and families affected by the killing. Many wonder whether this will prompt any substantial change to the IDF's rules of engagement, or if this will become another unsolved tragedy in a cycle of violence. Escalating civilian harm. With more raids and military operations ongoing, the risk to non-combatants remains high, especially as clashes increasingly happen near homes, mosques and populated villages. Erosion of trust. The persistent pattern of killings under contested circumstances is deepening mistrust among Palestinians toward both Israeli security forces and wider peace efforts. International scrutiny. Documented cases, especially ones captured on video, may intensify global pressure on Israel, demanding accountability, clearer rules of engagement and potentially third-party monitoring. Impact on peace prospects. With the West Bank increasingly militarized, the prospects for a negotiated settlement or calm in the region look bleaker. What is clear, Bahaa Abdel-Rahman Rashid is dead. He was shot on the 5th of December 2025 in Odala, south of Nablus. Medical responders tried but failed to save him. The Palestinian Health Ministry attributes the death to Israeli fire. What remains disputed? Whether Rashid was involved in any militant activity, whether the Israeli forces' use of live ammunition was justified, and whether troops fired in self-defense or as part of a broader sweep. Also uncertain is whether this killing will be subject to a transparent, independent investigation, a demand increasingly voiced by rights groups and many international observers. As violence continues to ripple across the West Bank, the killing of a 8-year-old man in Odala is a stark reminder. For many Palestinians, an ordinary Friday prayer can end in tragedy. The eyes of local communities and international watchers alike are now focused on whether this death prompts change or becomes another statistic in a long record of conflict.